Villain. It's a word that strikes fear, a label meant to isolate, to cast someone out. But what if that label didn't weaken you? What if, instead, it ignited something fierce, something powerful? There's a moment when you realize that the world has made you its villain. Maybe it's because you didn't conform. Maybe you chose a path others wouldn't take, or you refused to play by someone else's rules. Whatever the reason, they point the finger, they cast their judgment, and suddenly you're the problem, the outsider, the villain. And in that moment, you have a choice. Shrink away or own it. Let them see a villain. Let them think they know who you are. Because here's the truth. Labels are a reflection of other people's fears, not your truth. They can try to control the story, but they can't control your strength. When they make you the villain, they hand you something powerful. A new role to shape, to turn into your own. Every judgment they pass, every label they assign, every insult they throw, it's all fuel. Fuel to sharpen your focus. Fuel to strengthen your will. You don't become less. You become more. More resilient. More unbreakable. Each word meant to tear you down becomes a stone in the foundation of something stronger. Here's the thing about villains. They don't play by the same rules as everyone else. When they cast you in that role, they set you free from their expectations. You don't need to live up to their standards or seek their approval. You're free to define yourself on your terms, free to decide who you really are. Let them misunderstand you. Let them misjudge. In the shadows they create, you're free to grow, to build, to become something they could never understand. In this role they've given you, there is power, a kind of freedom that comes from refusing to be what others demand. So, if they've made you the villain, take it. Own it. Let their words fuel you. Let their judgments empower you. Because being cast out doesn't make you weak. It sets you apart, sets you up to become something unstoppable. In their attempts to bring you down, they've only given you the freedom to rise. Criticism. It's meant to tear down, to break, to make you doubt yourself. But what if every criticism thrown at you became a source of strength, a fuel that pushes you forward? They label you as the problem, the one who doesn't fit. They whisper, they judge, they criticize. But each word, each insult, each attempt to diminish you only serves one purpose: to add to your fire. People throw stones at what they fear, at what they can't control, at what challenges their idea of the world. And those stones, they can become the very foundation on which you stand. When you face criticism, you're given an opportunity to turn their negativity into energy. Criticism becomes a gift because it shows you where your strength lies. Every doubt they cast on you becomes a reflection of their own limitations, not yours. When they say you're too much, too bold, too different, they're really saying you have something they don't understand, something they fear. So let them criticize. Let their words become the fire that fuels you, the energy that sharpens your focus. Use each criticism as a reminder that you're not here to please everyone. You're not here to fit into the mold they've created. You're here to break it. Each insult, each sneer, each judgment, it all strengthens your resolve to be true to yourself, to keep moving forward, to build something they can't tear down. This is the freedom that comes with being the villain. You stop looking for validation from people who never understood your vision. You no longer feel the need to apologize for your ambition or your path. Instead, you walk with a stronger purpose, knowing that every word meant to tear you down is simply making you more resilient, more focused, more determined. Let them say what they will. Their criticism only reveals their own fears and insecurities. And in the end, they've done nothing but hand you the fuel to keep moving forward. Criticism doesn't weaken you. It empowers you, drives you, builds you. You turn their judgments into power, their doubts into strength, and their limits into your motivation. So the next time they criticize, don't shrink, stand taller. Let their words add to your strength, because you've stopped needing their approval. You found power in owning your path, in taking their judgments and turning them into fuel. Now, their criticism is your fire, and with each word, you're only growing stronger. Outsider, the word they use to set you apart, to remind you that you don't belong. But what if being the outsider was actually a strength? What if standing alone gave you freedom? Freedom from their expectations, their limitations, their need for control. Once they label you an outsider, you're no longer bound by the rules they follow. You're free to be different, to carve your own path, to create something they would never dare to imagine. When they see you as separate, they give you the space to think, to build, to become something untamed, something authentic. Being the villain allows you to escape their limits and grow without their restrictions. The strength of an outsider is unlike anything else. You don't have to seek validation from the crowd, and you don't have to worry about fitting in. You're free to be as bold as you choose, as ambitious as you want, as unapologetically different as you need to be. And in that freedom, you find a power that those who conform will never understand. When you embrace the role of the outsider, you're not just accepting their label, you're making it your own. You're turning what they meant as an insult into a badge of honor. You wear it proudly because it means you are unafraid to be different. It means you have chosen a path that challenges, that dares, that refuses to be ordinary. This is the power of the villain identity. You become someone who isn't bound by their rules or limited by their expectations. You're someone who forges their own way, who rises on their own terms. The isolation they intended to weaken you only makes you more resilient, more focused, and more determined. As an outsider, you're untouchable. Their judgments don't reach you, and their opinions can't control you. You've embraced the freedom that comes with standing apart. You've taken ownership of this role, and with it, you've discovered strength beyond what they could ever see. So let them keep their circle. Let them stay comfortable in their definitions of normal, because you have stepped outside of it all. You're stronger, bolder, and truer to yourself. Embrace the outsider own the identity. It is in that place of separation that you find your truest, most unbreakable self. Rejection. They cast you aside, label you, push you out. For most, rejection is a wound, a reminder of not being wanted, not being accepted. But for those who understand its power, rejection is fuel. It's the energy that drives you to grow, to rise, to become something they can't ignore. Being labeled the villain, the outsider, is just another way of being told you don't belong. But what if not belonging is the key to becoming who you are truly meant to be? Each rejection gives you freedom from their expectations, from their limitations. Each pushback, every closed door, every cold shoulder, it all fuels your fire, igniting a drive that few will ever understand. Rejection reveals your strength. It forces you to look inward, to rely on your own power. It shows you that your worth isn't dependent on anyone's approval. The opinions of others no longer matter. With every rejection, you become more self-reliant, more resilient. You begin to see that your value isn't tied to their acceptance. It's in your unyielding persistence, your relentless will to rise on your own terms. Think of every setback, every time you were underestimated, every time someone chose to overlook you. They thought rejection would stop you, but instead, it's become your reason to grow. It has forced you to dig deeper, to push harder, to prove that you are more than they ever gave you credit for. And with each rejection, your resilience becomes unbreakable. This is the irony of rejection. They mean it to weaken you, to push you down, but each rejection only makes you rise higher. You learn to take their denial and turn it into strength. You take their dismissal and use it to sharpen your focus, to prove to yourself that you don't need their validation to be powerful. In a way, rejection becomes a test of your character. It becomes a tool for refining who you are. The world may cast you as the villain, but in that role, you find the strength to embrace your true self, free from their limits. Rejection becomes a source of liberation, a force that allows you to grow in ways they'll never understand. So let them reject you. Let them cast you out. Each rejection is just another reminder of your strength, a call to keep growing, to keep pushing, to keep rising. Because while they try to diminish you, you're building something they could never comprehend. In their rejection, you find your path to growth and you become unstoppable. They made you the villain. They tried to define you, to paint you in shadows, to make you a symbol of everything they didn't understand. But here's the truth. The label they gave you, it doesn't define you. It empowers you. When you've faced their judgments, absorbed their criticism, stood tall in the face of rejection, something incredible happens. You begin to own the role they gave you. Not as they intended, but on your own terms. They wanted you to feel small, but instead, you've made the label your own. You've taken what was meant to break you and turned it into a badge of honor. Being the villain is no longer a burden. It's a symbol of your resilience, of your refusal to conform, of your willingness to stand alone if that's what it takes. It's a reminder that you are strong enough to walk your own path, free from their approval. scar, each insult, each struggle, these aren't weaknesses. They're proof of your strength. Owning this role doesn't mean you accept the story they tried to write for you. It means you've rewritten it. You've taken control. You are not bound by their expectations or limited by their judgments. You've turned their opinions into fuel, their criticism into power, and their rejection into growth. Now, being the villain is just another way of saying you are unbreakable. In embracing this identity, you've freed yourself. You no longer seek validation from those who misunderstood you. You've become self-made, resilient, and independent. And in that independence lies true power, the kind that no one can take from you, the kind that exists beyond anyone else's control. So wear this label with pride. Let them call you what they will. Because at the end of the day, you've turned their label into something powerful. You've made their judgments irrelevant. You've become a force that doesn't conform, doesn't back down, and refuses to be defined by anyone but yourself. They made you the villain, but you've made it your strength. Now, you own it. You've taken their story and rewritten it as your own. And in doing so, you've proven that you don't just survive the darkness. They've given you the power to rise above it. Embrace the role. Let it fuel your pride, and let it be the source of your strength. Because they may have made you the villain, but now, you wear that title as a crown.